These are some of the most disturbing crimes that happen in the Undertale community, and as the video goes on, they only get darker. Archimedes was a popular fan artist from Taiwan who started her digital art career way back in 2009 and primarily made short comics in the Team Fortress 2 or TF2 art style, which was very popular at the time, on her DeviantArt page. And Archimedes then began streaming in the mid-2010s, and by 2011 she'd become well known in the digital fan art community and started posting her arts on other popular platforms like Tumblr, Plurk, and Twitter. She also ran an account on a furry-centric art community called Fur Affinity, where she posted furry comics and art, an obvious indicator that she was an active member of the furry subculture. However, in 2015, Archimedes decided to join a new fandom, but little did she know that it was going to nearly cost her life. Undertale, as you may know, is a roleplay video game that completely took over the internet after its release in 2015. The goal of the game is basically to help a lost boy named Frisk find his way home from the underworld, with multiple endings which depend on how the player chooses to play the game. Archimedes was also one of the many people that fell in love with Undertale, and for that reason she decided to do what she did best, which was to make digital art for the game. At first, many fans really liked Archimedes' art, but all of that love quickly transformed into deep hatred when she revealed that she was a France supporter. France being one of the most controversial character ships in the Undertale community. And in case you don't know, a ship is when fans of a movie, video game, or novel decide to pair two characters from their fandom into a romantic relationship. The France ship in question is between Frisk, the main character, and Sans, the skeleton. And the reason a lot of people strongly oppose this ship is majorly because of the age difference. In the game, Frisk is canonically a younger person, while Sans on the other hand is an adult in his late 20s. Now many people find this dynamic weird, since it essentially portrays Sans as a PDF file. So when Archimedes posted this art on the France ship on Tumblr in 2017, she got a lot of hate for it. However, it seemed like one fan felt the online attacks that Archimedes was facing weren't enough and decided to let her know how they felt in person. In early May of 2017, a big anime convention was held in Taiwan, and since Archimedes was considered a very influential member of the Undertale community, not only in Taiwan but on the global internet fandom as well, she decided to attend this convention. During the convention, a fan actually recognized Archimedes in the crowd and immediately went to meet her. After they talked about her fan art and took a couple of pictures, the fan then handed Archimedes a box of homemade cookies as a gift. And Archimedes of course took them, thinking it was only a simple show of appreciation. But when she decided to finally enjoy these cookies, she was horrified to find out that it was quite the opposite. Upon getting home, Archimedes decided to take a couple of bites from the box of cookies, but it wasn't long into her sweet treat that something sharp and pointy pierced her tongue, and when she spat out what was in her mouth, what she saw absolutely shocked her. Inside the cookie was a huge needle baked inside. And so not long after the convention, Archimedes went on her Plurk account and made this post.
Warning, these photos contain a lot of blood. I'm very sorry that I haven't had a chance to say my thanks for the convention, and I'm venting, but I received a needle in my dessert gift from the convention. Thank you, I have one more piercing now. I'm not trying to ask for comfort. I am only trying to tell everyone how serious this matter is, so do not comfort me. This matter is unable to be investigated and hopeless to be investigated. This matter has made me lost trust towards something, but from today onward, I will not be accepting any more homemade food by others. And more follow-up and notice will be posted, if there's any. Thank you for your attention.
The needle injured Archimedes' tongue and mouth, but luckily she didn't actually swallow it. If she'd actually swallowed it, the needle could have torn through her esophagus or punctured her stomach. Someone had tried to make her suffer, or worse, lose her life. Archimedes also posted this photo, which shows the chewed out cookie that she spat out, bleeding from her mouth wounds and a long needle. A blog post also revealed that Archimedes had gone to the police and filed a report, but no official arrest was ever made. And since she had always been a public supporter of the France ship, a lot of fans believed that the attack was meant to punish her for promoting the disturbing ship, and some of them were even in support of the attack. While this theory was generally accepted, it isn't completely confirmed. And since there were no arrests made or hospital records following the incident, many of her fans actually believed that she may have faked the entire incident for attention and views. However, judging from how real the photo looked, it is unlikely that this was the case. But that was far from the only theory internet users came up with. The story would take a whole different turn 4 years after the incident, when Archimedes suddenly restricted her social media accounts and wrote on her Twitter bio,
"Learn from the past, moving on. I decided to reboot my social media accounts, only for myself some space to breathe. I apologize for everything I've done."
Although Archimedes didn't explicitly mention what she was apologizing for, a couple of people matched it with the number of unverified crimes that she'd been linked with in the past.
No one knows the actual true reason for this, but a person at an Undertale convention had received cookies from a fan that was actually filled with needles. These were the following things they had done beforehand: being accused of taking advantage of owing people's money, murdering pet birds.
A Twitter user also wrote,
"There's like literally zero evidence it was because of France and the artist in question." Archimedes was also accused of pretty effed up stuff, violations, animal harm, etc.
And with all these new claims, it began to look like Archimedes had quite a number of enemies before the cookie attack. But since everything basically still remains unconfirmed and no official arrests were ever made, it's pretty hard to say what exactly caused this murder attempt. But despite how disturbing this case was, the next case on our list shows how far the community can go just because they didn't like the way someone played Undertale.
Everybody just acts like that's common knowledge when we've been playing it from the beginning as though 1 million internet people didn't say, hey, can you play Undertale and make sure you don't kill anything? Thanks, bye. I don't play games like that.
Markiplier is one of the most famous creators on YouTube and is well known for being multi-talented in acting, filmmaking, gaming, and overall entertainment. He currently has over 38 million subscribers on his account and was even listed by Forbes as the 3rd highest paid content creator on YouTube in 2022. However, in 2015, Markiplier was almost completely cancelled just because of how he chose to play Undertale. After the release of the game in September of 2015, a lot of YouTubers including PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, etc. decided to make gameplay videos of the game, as a result of the positive reviews that flooded the internet. And so in November, Markiplier released a walkthrough of Undertale to add to his Let's Play series on YouTube, where he had already played over 20 different games on stream. However, instead of the usual positive response to his videos, Mark's comment section was blowing up with insults and even death threats just because apparently he wasn't playing the game the right way. And it wasn't just the first video that got this kind of reaction. The next time he dropped another Undertale gameplay video, fans of the game came at him again. And when the negative comments didn't stop after the second episode, he gave up on making the third one completely. You have to know the Undertale plot is divided into 2 main endings, which come from either choosing the pacifist route or the genocide route. The pacifist route basically involves the player not killing any monsters in the game, and befriending 3 of the secondary main characters, Papyrus, Undyne, and Alphys. While the genocide route on the other hand involves killing every monster, including mini, mid, and main bosses in every location in the game. The third ending is the neutral one, which is basically the combination of both. And while these endings just seem like 2 simple different plot lines, a lot of Undertale fans don't joke with the routes, and have formed very toxic fandoms within the community that harass, dogs, and even send death threats to people who choose routes different from theirs. The genocide route fans believe that it is very pointless to play the game without killing monsters, because it leaves the protagonist at level 1 and doesn't give him any XP. And for the pro-pacifists, their biggest argument is that taking the genocide route involves killing characters that are minors. Now Markiplier chose to play through the genocide route, and this was the reason behind the backlash from pro-pacifists. At the same time, a lot of comments criticized the voice he decided to use for the video game characters, especially Sans and Toriel.
You're making Sans sound like an idiot. OMFG Mark, when you first met Sans, your voice for him made him sound like a...
Now many of these comments were so vile that YouTube had to take them down, and some even went as far as asking Markiplier to end his own life. What made the death threats even more heartbreaking for Markiplier was that only 3 months before the walkthrough stream, Markiplier actually lost one of his close friends and collaborator, Daniel Lee Kyrie, after he unalived himself. Now Markiplier didn't actually say anything about the entire situation until February of 2016, during his Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance charity livestream.
Undertale, I'm not gonna play it. There's no short way around it. There's no easy way to say that. I'm not gonna play it. The community that rallied around it for different reasons than the reasons that I wanted to play it. So then it became a big obstacle to me in my mind that I wanted to play it in a different way than people were expecting. And then it became too much of a long thing, and then it's way out of time now, and I just don't feel like playing it.
The backlash would eventually die down after Mark successfully distanced himself from the game. However, later in October 2016, Mark made a surprising return to Undertale, when he and some of his friends streamed their playthrough for YouTube Primetime. And this was when he finally explained why he quit in 2015, saying,
Everyone was disappointed in the way I was playing it, and ordinarily I would just be like, you know, I'm doing it my way, I'm gonna do this. But unfortunately, it was so persuasive that it made the entire experience not fun for me. It was literally just a moment where I was like, I'm not having fun making these videos, because I know no matter what I do, everyone will think I'm wrong.
Now Markiplier's case wasn't the only time Undertale fans hated on YouTubers for playing the game wrongly. In January of 2016, while YouTuber Fraser Argar, also known as Far From Subtle, was streaming an Undertale walkthrough on his channel, he killed some of the monsters that attacked his characters, and because of this wasn't allowed to go through a door in the game that was strictly meant for the pacifist route. Now a lot of viewers in the stream chat immediately made it a big deal, with one commenting,
wow, they really are punishing you for your choices.
And this made him really frustrated, and so he replied,
everyone just acts like it's common knowledge when we've been playing it from the beginning, as though 1 million internet people didn't say, hey, can you play Undertale, make sure not to kill anything, K thanks bye. I don't play games like that.
What comes next, however, is even more unsettling since it involves an Undertale mod developer who used his privilege to commit pure evil.
What's up guys, it's Undertale, but even better with the Bits and Pieces mod.
When Undertale was released in 2015, nobody expected it to blow up as fast as it did. It was very rare for an indie game to perform that well, and even Toby Fox, the creator of the game, was so surprised by its success that he made a post on his official blog.
Though it was released almost a year ago, I have the same opinion of it. It's about an 8 out of 10 niche RPG game. Surprisingly, there are many people who like this type of game. Though I did work hard, there's definitely a lot of luck involved in having a game become this popular.
This fast and exponential growth was the first of that era, and it definitely gave room for a huge fanbase that created fan art, alternate game theories, universes, and new gameplay mods from developers within the community. A game mod is sort of a fan-made reconstruction of a video game that basically makes changes usually requested by other members of the community. And one of the most popular Undertale mods was the Bits and Pieces mod, not only for the new improvements, but for the very controversial story behind its creator. The first version of the Bits and Pieces mod was announced in August of 2020 by the team B&P, a group of relatively famous developers, artists, and musicians in the Undertale community. The creator and main director of the project was a designer and musician called Blaze Myers. He was the lead developer on the team and had also collaborated with musicians on popular soundtracks in the Undertale community, including the very popular Spamton CD track and the soundtrack of the second chapter of Deltarune, a spin-off Undertale made by the original creator Toby Fox. The Bits and Pieces mod introduced overhauled graphics, new characters, fight scenes, and locations, and even imported features from Deltarune. Team B&P also consistently left news updates on their Game Jolt page and put out 25 mod versions by 2022, before releasing the main version in January of 2023, with 3 versions following in early November. However, on the 13th of November, Team B&P posted an update on their page titled "What's Next?" and it completely shocked everyone.
We'd like to start this announcement by sincerely thanking everyone for their support you've given us in the wake of the incident. You're the best. The Undertale Bits and Pieces mod, as you may know it, will no longer continue development. We ask that nobody attempts to continue this project as we feel it is best left as is. We've decided to archive this page, as well as the current Discord server, and we'll be releasing what we had of the anticipated Susie update, in the broken buggy state it was left at. However, we are happy to confirm that this is not the end. Our team has been steadily moving towards working on a new mod project, one that's completely free from our previous lead influence. In fact, this project has been in the works behind the scenes long before the incident occurred. The new mod is none other than Undertale Project Harmony by Murky Spices, which still aims to redesign the visuals of Undertale and add some extra content, only this time taking a more faithful approach. More updates coming soon. A new Discord server and Game Jolt page will also be popping up soon. Once again, thank you for standing by us, and we can't wait to explore what the future holds.
The Undertale community was completely confused and at the same time devastated, especially with the statement indicating that their new mod project was going to be free from the previous lead influence, which meant that the team had a problem from the top. And when fans took note of it, a lot of theories started coming in about Blaze being a toxic leader and that he'd been abusing his power within the team. But the next day, the real reason for the mod's cancellation came out, and it was far worse than a common situation of power imbalance. That day, a Reddit user made a post titled
Bits and Pieces mod creator arrested,
which included a link to Blaze's official mugshot and incarceration details. According to the Barron County inmate database, Blaze Myers was arrested for charges of possession of illegal underage content and soliciting for very immoral content from young people. Blaze Myers had been using his Instagram account to view illegal content of people not of age. However, on the 9th of August 2023, the Instagram administration reported through Cybertip that there had been an exchange of 3 illegal files between 2 accounts, one of which belonged to Blaze. The police then began an investigation, and 3 months later, they received a warrant to search Blaze Myers' account. And by the time the police went through his computer, what they uncovered was the darkest collection of media imaginable. He'd been having intimate conversations with a younger person, and had asked that person to make illicit videos of themselves. And so on November 13, the same day the B&P team announcement was made, Blaze was charged with 2 felonies, exploitation of a younger person and possession of explicit content involving a person not of age. In the Barron County circuit, he was held on a signature bond of $10,000. And on May 10, 2024, Blaze pleaded guilty to the charge of possessing explicit content involving a person not of age. And so after all the court proceedings, on July 9, 2024, almost 8 months later, Blaze was sentenced to 8 years in prison, with 3 years of confinement and 5 years of extended supervision, on the condition that he registered as an offender and never used the internet unsupervised again. In response to the entire controversy, the Team B&P official website was updated to remove Blaze from the credits on their work. And under the list of directors, the team added a note where Blaze's name is supposed to be, which read,
"We don't talk about the third one,"
completely erasing him from the Bits and Pieces projects. And according to a blog post from TV Topes, some old members of the Team B&P partnered to form a new dev group called Top Hat Interactive and worked together to create the Undertale Project Harmony mod that they had already announced in their statement. Then in January of 2025, Top Hat Interactive finally decided to completely distance themselves from Blaze Myers and everything he'd created. So they reached an agreement with the other Undertale mod collective called the Hopes and Dreams mod team and agreed to delete all traces from Bits and Pieces in their work. And while Blaze faced justice for his crimes, that wasn't the same in the next case, even though they went as far as almost forcing someone to end their stay on Earth.
They are brothers! And they are literally skeletons. Why do you want to see this in a romantic or sexual manner?
We've already talked about ships in the Undertale community and how toxic they can be, but there's one ship that's even more problematic than Frisk, the Fonsest ship. The Fonsest ship is between two underworld characters in the game called Papyrus and Sans. In case you didn't notice, both of these characters are named after their popular computer text fonts, Papyrus and Sans Serif, and both of these characters are also brothers. In the game, Sans is depicted as the annoying older brother that lazes around and bugs Papyrus with bad skeleton jokes, but brags about Papyrus a lot whenever he's off screen, while Papyrus is calmer and pretty much the opposite of his brother. Sans and Papyrus are seen together at several points in the game, especially in the Snowden region, with Sans also making a couple of guest appearances on phone calls with Papyrus. Now, after the release of the game, many artists and fanfiction writers began creating romantic content involving the two brothers, especially on platforms like DeviantArt, Tumblr, and Wattpad. And a lot of fans love the Fonsest ship because of the contrast in their personalities, and the fact that Papyrus and Sans are the main skeletons in the game. Also, as a result of the growth in the global acceptance of queer culture in the mid-2000s, same-gender ships like Fonsest were pretty popular. Now, on the other hand, of course, the anti-Fonsest sub-fandom were strongly against the idea. This is because inappropriate relationships between siblings is not only morally wrong, but also a crime pretty much everywhere in the world. And so the pro-Fonsest versus anti-Fonsest groups slowly divided the Undertale fandom. And with time, what seemed like a simple disagreement quickly became something else entirely. Artists that drew Fonsest content were mass reported, which resulted in their accounts being suspended, and it escalated to a point where even artists that drew simple platonic scenes of the brothers were accused of being secret Fonsest shippers, and were also reported online. One user even went as far as creating a petition to stop Fonsest, which he addressed to Toby Fox, the Undertale community, and for some reason American rapper Macklemore. Now, during the peak of the Fonsest beef, the term purity culture became a trend in the community, which is a Christian movement that preaches abstinency from intimacy. The anti-Fonsest supporters also claimed that they were protecting children from the weird relationships of two brothers. But the pro-Fonsest were also not backing down either, and decided to fight back so hard that they harassed an anti-Fonsest supporter, so much so that he almost decided to end their time on Earth. In 2016, a Reddit post titled
It seems an anti-Fonsest blog unalived himself
went viral, and it talked about a popular Tumblr blogger at the time under the username anti-Fonsest, who was well known for posting content against the Fonsest chip. The handler of the anti-Fonsest blog had previously written about how they believed that chips like these were used to condition victims by their offenders into thinking what they did to them was okay. And then on July 4th, they made a post about receiving assault threats from pro-Fonsest supporters online.
Please stop sending me asks about harming me. Please, I'm begging you. Please stop.
And the same day, they released a long list of vile messages that they'd received from users online.
Things that people have actually said to me because I hate their skeleton ship. I've been brainwashed by the Tumblrians into being embarrassed about my past experience with inappropriate intimate conduct as a young person. And I should just drop the act and admit I enjoyed what happened. Graphic description of how someone wanted to kill me. I would have exploited whether the person responsible had access to adult content or not. So it's wrong of me to condemn the whole genre. 3 people hoping I get exploited again. Someone threatened to track me down and harm me. I'm an opinionated cow. I already lost the count of the unalive yourself asks I've gotten. Consensual familiar intimacy is beneficial for both parties. More that I don't want to think about right now.
Then they followed it up with another post saying,
You want me gone so badly, then fine. I'll give you what you want.
Before completely going offline. Luckily, a friend of theirs managed to find them and talked them out of doing anything crazy to themselves. And the next day, another Tumblr blog posted an update on the whole situation.
Great. Thanks to the fandom for this ship, somebody is about to unalive themselves. Are you proud of yourself, Anons, that harass anti-Fonsest? Second update, he changed his description and title to, I won't be back, I'm sorry. So we are here now.
After anti-Fonsest left Tumblr, another account, which was a pro-Fonsest supporter, made a celebratory post titled Anti-Fonsest is dead, which was later taken down by the platform itself. Now by 2017, most fans stopped paying attention to shipping wars, and most of them just faded. But this was at the expense of the entire fandom, as it had been divided into these smaller niche subgroups that majorly made posts about the ships they supported. But even though the community had been divided, one thing they still agree on is how much the next person turned Undertale to an immoral collection of childhood trauma.
Plots centered around Lil growing up to marry someone is a pretty cute thing to include in the story. But if the other person is an adult, yeah, do you see the problem here?
Just like most fandoms, the topic of alternate universes is a major discussion for Undertale fans. A lot of fans create alternate storylines, or AUs for short, which are different plot lines from what the original game developer created. For example, in the Underswap alternate universe created by Popcorn Prince, who is a popular Undertale digital artist, all of the main characters in the game had their personalities and roles swapped. And there are many AUs in the Undertale fandom, some even with their own original characters that have gained a lot of popularity in the community. However, one AU artist that completely scares early Undertale fans is Blog the Great Rogue, but we'll be calling her Rogue for short. Rogue started as a Tumblr fan artist, and around 2016 she started getting popularity for her shipping artworks and her Q&A arts, which involved her followers asking questions about her original characters, and she would draw them answering the questions. Rogue's art was impressive, and most of it involved merging characters from different universes, but the issue was that most of her content was not safe for work stuff, involving very explicit artwork. Now, one of her more popular AU comics was called Bendy and the Quest for the Ink Machine, where she combined Cuphead and other classic cartoons like Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. The comic was a hit among young fans back then, and it ran for 3 years. But when Undertale came out in 2015, Rogue was among many others who loved the game, and also added it to her list of art concepts. However, among all of Rogue's works, there are 3 main comics that the Undertale fans notoriously remember her for: PJ's Daycare, Jamie's Love, and the Nerd and Jock AU. Paper Jam, or PJ, who's also an AU character created by a Tumblr artist called 7 Good Angel, runs a daycare, where he takes care of other AU characters from the fandom. PJ's Daycare follows Rogue's regular Q&A format, and in one of the scenes, one of the characters, Arrow Sans, who's inspired by Sans from the game, gets very sick and goes to the hospital. But his older brother Geno, a version of Sans from the genocide route, wasn't aware of his brother's condition, so he believed Arrow Sans had died and that it was his fault, and concluded that the only way to redeem himself was to take himself out of this world as well. As crazy as this sounds already, the fact that Geno is still a daycare level toddler and is already so eager to unalive himself makes the entire story even more disturbing. When PJ gets to the cliff, instead of trying to talk Geno out of the entire situation, like in real life scenarios, he yells at him, before revealing that his brother was alive. Geno, who is now calmed down, leaves the cliff's edge and hugs his brother. Rogue's AU comics created very uncomfortable plotlines from the Undertale game, and it gets even weirder in the Jamie's Love comic, where Paper Jam, or Jamie, who's a minor at the time, falls in love with Mr. Fresh, a cool version of Sans in his mid-20s. The huge age difference made the entire plot unsettling, and for most of the comic, Paper Jam refers to Fresh as Mr. Fresh, which further makes it obvious that he understands that it's not normal to be with someone that old. There are multiple scenes where Rogue draws intimate moments of the two, and in one scene, Fresh even falls asleep during one of the intimate moments, and Paper Jam opens his mouth and does some inappropriate stuff. And if you think these plots couldn't get even more disgusting, in the third AU, the whole story revolves around a nerd named Goth, and a jock or popular kid named Palette, who's also a shipchild of 2 other Sans AU characters, Ink Sans and Dream Sans. Now Palette and Goth like themselves, but Palette isn't ready for a relationship or anything serious. However, Goth loses control of himself and forcefully has his way with Palette. Some days after, Goth starts to regret all of it and tries to take himself out of this world, but Palette comes to stop him and immediately calls for help. And then Goth asks her why she was calling for help, like she didn't want him to die. Palette, who is already manipulated at this point, then replies,
"What are you talking about? I never wanted you to check yourself out of this world. That idea never even crossed my mind. Sure, I was extremely mad at you for what you did, but it's not like I never wanted to do that with you. I tried to stay loyal to our friendship, but you're just so dreamy. I thought maybe someday we can be lovers. I wanted to take things slow before, that is why I was shocked by what happened. I don't know if you remember, but I didn't really fight back or even call for help when you did that to me, because it wasn't just anyone that did that, it was you, and it made me feel safer. You don't have to feel bad anymore. I'm glad you were the one to take my V. I love you, Goth."
Not only did Rogue make the fact that Palette was completely used so insignificant, she made him sympathize with the perpetrator and accept what happened to her like it was normal. Now, what made the comic even more problematic was that most of Rogue's viewers were not of age either, so being exposed to this kind of content could potentially condition them to believing that this was the kind of reaction a person who experienced such a traumatic event should have. Now, this isn't peculiar to only this comic. In most of the comment sections that talk about her old content, you can see most people in the comment section talk about how they didn't understand these things back then, because they were way too young.
I was about to when I found these comics, and it was definitely a big contributor to me letting myself get harassed online. Normalizing these dynamics is predatory and disgusting. A guy who took advantage of me made me read these comics when I was. He made me think these filthy things were normal, and it took literally years for me to notice they weren't. Thank you so much for talking about this. The way these topics were portrayed in the comics is just disgusting.
When all of this controversy reached Rogue, her response made it clear that she didn't unknowingly make all of this, and was in fact aware of what she was doing. In a very long Tumblr post, she wrote,
"I ain't fazed by any of this, especially after 2016. A lot of poor souls that used to be on Tumblr talk about their younger selves on YouTube, and how they just wanted to draw out of proportion, obviously deprived from reality just for giggles, and how they got beaten to pulp for it. That weird, obviously non-realistic always finds a way to become something political to these people. Like, are you all proud of yourself for almost ruining those people's lives just because they drew something you didn't like? Hell, most of them were kids when they first joined Tumblr. I'm lucky I was an adult when I joined the internet.
She then ends her long post saying,
If you want to make a rant about something or someone you don't like, go ahead, but don't assume gross, creepy things because of it. Here's an example to think about. In the Undertale fandom, a lot, and I mean a lot of people, are into foncest, aka sans ex papyrus. Another ship I hate. And they are brothers. Think about it. Do you really think that all those people are actually into sibling intimacy?
For a long time, most of Rogue's content remained on the internet, until 2018, when a lot of her content was removed from Tumblr, after the platform announced a ban on adult content in 2018. Rogue might have completely altered a lot of innocent childhoods, but this next person's case is a systematic spiderweb of manipulation and taking advantage of people, all under the disguise of a video game community.
Welcome back to my Undertale casual Let's Play.
Shay was one of the most popular Undertale and Deltarune content creators of the early 2020s, and was well known for the ironic frog-faced persona. But while Shay was cementing their name as one of the biggest Undertale YouTubers, what they were doing behind the scenes was far worse than anyone imagined. They started making videos on YouTube in 2017, particularly speedrun content, which was made popular by streamers like Summoning Salt and TGH. Now, when they started making speedrunning content, they actually played The Legend of Zelda, but then around 2021, they decided to switch to Undertale and Deltarune speedrun videos. And it didn't take long for them to become famous in the community, and in just 4 years, they had amassed over 350,000 subscribers on YouTube, and about 50,000 on Twitch. They also took part in multiple public speedrun tournaments, and in 2021, they became the world record holder for the fastest completion time of an Undertale genocide campaign, with a total time of 1 hour, 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Now, Shay was also active on online Undertale communities, where they made Undertale meme art, had a piano cover playlist of soundtracks from the video game, and collaborated with various Undertale mod developers. However, on November 18th, 2025, Shay would do something that nobody predicted, and it would go on to destroy their reputation overnight. Out of the blue, they went offline on their social media accounts, including the Discord speedrunning service that they owned. And the next day, they left the Calamity mod developer team as well, that they'd been a part of since 2024. Now, a lot of fans were confused, and a couple of them started making threads on Reddit, trying to understand what really happened to them. So the very next day, another popular Undertale speedrunner, known as Willie J, posted a statement to the community on Twitter.
We're aware of the concerns over the current state of Shay's community, including but not limited to them stepping down from various leadership positions in UT/DR speedrunning communities. Due to the sensitive nature of this, we cannot disclose more information about this at the moment. We're working behind the scenes and we will be able to share more information with you in the near future.
But this just raised even more questions than answers. And so just 2 days later, Willie J returned to Twitter and made a post that completely shook the Undertale community.
While in the community, Shay has committed reprehensible acts including taking advantage of multiple fans and harming their now ex-partner. They're an active danger to the community.
And Willie J then revealed Shay's crimes with a 262-page long expose of proof attached to the tweet to back up his claims. The document contained 29 separate sections, testimonies from victims, former friends, and people Shay had manipulated or taken advantage of. Each section included chat logs, screenshots, and detailed accounts of what happened. The preface of the document reads,
We, a collective group of Shay's victims and former friends, accuse Shay of actions including but not limited to non-consensual acts, taking advantage of people, orbiting fans until they're of legal age, and pressured intimacy. We're releasing this document because we feel that Shay's actions pose a present and extreme safety risk to the community, such that people need to be aware to protect themselves. In this document, you will find a collection of our stories, statements, and supporting evidence to these accusations. Shay himself has already admitted to the actions, detailed in the testimonies from Anonymous 1, Azurath, Anonymous 3, and Willie J, to the victims themselves in private.
I can't go over the entire document because it's too long and I don't want to get demonetized. But the first case in the document is by Shay's ex-partner, known on the internet as Star Smiley. Shay and Smiley became a couple around 2019, and from the beginning, Star had been clear about her boundaries because she is asexual, which means that she experiences little to no intimate attraction to others. And Shay, who's non-binary, agreed to respect these boundaries when they started dating. She asked Shay to not initiate anything intimate, and Shay agreed. To culminate this, Star claimed that she was okay with Shay having intimate partners outside of their relationship. But according to Star, Shay took advantage of that arrangement and, in quote,
handled it poorly. As I mentioned previously, I agreed that they could have intimate contact with others, and did not specify that they had to tell me when it happened, or who it was with. I did not expect them to be having this behavior with nearly 20 people, nearly constantly, throughout the entire relationship.
And from other victim testimonies, Shay can be seen repeatedly brushing off any conversation that asked about Smiley, or if Smiley was comfortable with them talking with Shay. Then one night, while they were in bed together, Shay started doing something to Smiley inappropriately without her consent. And when Smiley confronted them, Shay claimed that they were testing whether Smiley really was asexual. And this of course left Smiley completely distraught. Smiley also revealed that Shay was very distant and would rarely interact with her despite knowing that she was suffering from depression, and that they also had a phone addiction problem. And on top of that, Smiley would also accuse Shay of being emotionally distant. Now when Smiley finally ended their relationship, she moved back in with her parents, without telling Shay, since she knew that they wouldn't let go, and she was right. When Shay called Smiley's mother afterward, they admitted to her mom that they would have tried to stop Smiley from leaving. The next testimony in the document was from a girl named Aspen, who Shay had befriended. At the time, Aspen was not of age, while Shay was already 22, but this didn't stop them from flirting with Aspen nonetheless. And as the two grew closer, Shay would always make these inappropriate comments about Aspen's body. And then in 2022, during a gaming convention that they both attended, Shay sent Aspen a shirtless photo while the two were seated next to each other on a bed. And the moment Aspen turned 18, Shay's behavior shifted even more. Their advances became more aggressive and more explicit. They would only text her when they wanted to talk dirty, and according to the document, this was a pattern across multiple victims. Then during the Games Done Quick convention of 2025, Shay invited Aspen to their room while they were alone and got intimate with her even when she clearly didn't want it, although Aspen didn't complain because she was scared of upsetting Shay.
When I went up to their room under the pretense of hanging out, they took advantage of me. They made advancement and pushed me to do things I was not comfortable with, but I did not feel safe saying no given the context, the power they had over me, and the fact that I was alone with them. At the time I was vulnerable given unrelated things in my personal life, and it led me to not really realize what had happened until I looked back on it a few days later. For the rest of the events, they barely responded to me. I sent around a dozen messages and they gave me one single cat emoticon and a LOL, ignoring almost everything I said to them, and all the while acting like nothing happened when we were around each other in person.
And then there's the case of a person who's only referred to as Anonymous 1 in the documents, but I'll be calling them Sage. His first contact with Shay was in late 2023, after Shay reached out to him to compliment an art that he'd made. The two slowly grew closer, and Shay managed to keep the conversation as platonic as possible. But this wouldn't last long, as when Sage turned 18, Shay became much more flirty with their messages, and called him a good boy in one instance. On one occasion, Shay also asked him for a photo of his backside as proof that it was actually big, which he sent. Now this was very disturbing, because they knew that Sage was also asexual, and pushed anyway, just like with Smiley. According to Sage, he was enjoying his relationship with Shay, not only because it fulfilled his fantasy of dating an older person, but because they were also somebody he looked up to, which made it pretty special for him. Then in May of 2025, Sage made a post on X about wanting to get intimate, but Shay immediately translated that as an invitation for intimacy directed to them, and so they began to bug Sage about performing the acts he described in the tweets with them. And in response, Sage continued to brush Shay off, but they simply refused to back down and continued to behave inappropriately. Sage then explained that his post wasn't meant to be intimate, but Shay made it clear that their intentions absolutely were. This made Sage upset, because again, he was asexual, and Shay knew about it. And when Shay noticed that the whole thing was going too far, they quickly apologized and claimed that it was simply a joke. Now by late August 2025, Sage had actually heard enough stories from other victims, so he sent Shay a lengthy message calling out the inappropriate behavior and setting clear boundaries, to which Shay then responded this.
These past few weeks and especially these past few days have been incredibly sobering for me. I frankly truly did not realize the impact of the things I was saying. You're completely right. I want you to know that. You're completely right. After I got over the initial sting and suddenness of your message to me a few weeks ago, I really started thinking and processing and just laying it all out for myself. I'm sorry that wasn't clear in my responses to you, because I was still reeling over the shock of it all. But you're right. You have every right to feel this way, and yet you have shown me compassion by sending this to me, giving me closure on it, and that means a lot to me. I'm going to write my response in multiple bits. I don't have the energy at the moment for a long message, sorry. I just want to say I'm so incredibly sorry. And so incredibly sorry for not realizing what I was doing to you, how it made you feel, how it must have felt coming from me.
But even after this apology, Shay would then immediately blame Sage for hurting their feelings by confronting them at night when they were tired. They claimed that Sage and other victims were making them hate themselves. And this wasn't all, as Sage was just one of the 21 victims who came forward, with another one, Anonymous 11, who I'll be calling Ben, stated that during a gaming convention they attended in 2023, when Shay went in for a goodbye hug with Ben, they picked him up from the ground and pressed their private part against him. Then during another convention in 2025, when Shay went to visit Ben in his hotel room, they tried to force Ben to lie down next to them, and even pulled him down to the bed. However, Ben was lucky that his partner, who was also in the room, managed to come to his rescue. One of Shay's former friends, Audrey, also claimed that right after she had a breakup, they and Shay attended the Games Done Quick convention in 2023 together. Shay was aware that Audrey was at a vulnerable spot and used it as an opportunity to get extremely touchy with them. During one time, Shay asked Audrey to cuddle with them and felt up her backside without her consent. And to make matters worse, Audrey was way younger than Shay and had only turned 18 then. and Anonymous Victim 3, who I'll be calling Jay, claimed that during a convention while they were both in a friend's room, Shay came to lay with them on the bed they were on, and forcefully cuddled with them, even when Jay made it clear that they wanted their space. Shay then pressed their third leg against Jay's leg, and when Jay voiced out their confusion, Shay acted like they didn't understand what they'd done. Now Shay later debunked Jay's story and claimed that they were only trying to see what was on their phone. Now, hours after Willie J's document went live, another Undertale creator named Gibbles GD released her own 15-page document detailing her and her partner Ava's experience with Shay. According to Sibbles, while a lot of people believed she and Shay's relationship was strictly based on Undertale-related topics, she claimed that they also had some sort of flirtatious connection that was initiated by Shay. Sibbles also claimed that Shay would often ignore work conversations and only pay attention when she was being flirty. At the same time, Sibbles' partner, Ava, who was a YouTube editor, was looking for work and eventually got hired by Shay, but they would constantly ignore Ava because she only cared about conversations when they were flirty too. Shay also provided very little material for her to work with, and on some occasions she would have to beg Shay to reply to her. So since Sibbles knew how to get Shay's attention, she would decide to offer Shay an explicit photo in exchange for answering Ava, and they immediately agreed. But even after she did what Shay wanted, Shay didn't give Ava the materials until the last day of July, despite her asking for it before July even started. Now, even though Sibbles consented to send this photo, it was out of desperation, and in the chat she clearly tells Shay that she and Ava really needed the money, which means that Shay clearly knew that they were practically granting a favor in exchange for explicit content. Then in the doc, Sibbles, who's dyslexic, revealed that she once made a post asking people to stop spamming the
"I can't read, I'm an Undertale fan"
meme in her comment section. And when she told Shay to help her out with the situation, Shay told her that they couldn't because they actually created the meme and didn't want people to stop using it. Shay simply didn't care about the fact that Sibbles was getting hate online and only wanted their meme to keep going viral even if it meant that her friend kept getting hurt. They also asked Sibbles to delete a tweet where she complained about the meme. And when all this came out, a lot of fans simply couldn't stomach how evil one person could be. And so with the minutes of the document going public, Shay appeared in a Discord server and admitted to practically everything and simply said that they were taking a break from the internet to seek professional help. And there have been no updates on Shay since.